Good morning, good evening, good afternoon to all my blessed beloveds out there in video land. You're watching Living and Thriving with Rustie, and I am Rustie. You are looking at the end of an Olympic sprint through recordings. I am so tired. I can't even tell you how tired I am. I feel like a zombie at this point. I absolutely love what I do, but the back end, there's a lot of work that goes into doing these shows. And sometimes I think people don't appreciate how much work goes into these shows. Oh, Lord. So I will be traveling next week and going up to Charlotte, North Carolina to start the beginning phases of the TV series that we're going to be developing in regards to my new book, The Truth About Poverty. And I'm really excited to see Catherine and have really yummy food and hugs because she believes in living the yummy life. So that's to be announced. Don't forget to sign up for my next masterclass on your own university. It's all about fear-based thinking, and that's the biggest obstacle to any aspect of our life is our fears. And that is so true. Right now, we are in this crazy place with the pandemic. The numbers are still rising, yet some of the governors are still opening up, and some people are being very naughty, and there's a lot of fear going on and a lot of nasty stuff out there. So I'm hoping that we can stay focused on the positive and the good stuff that we are doing here with Living and Thriving. I get to virtually tour all over the world, talking to people about what it means to reinvent yourself, to reconnect with your authentic self, to do things you haven't done in a really long time, like art, read, bake a lot of cookies, pants social distancing. We all know that what's going on with you guys. Catch up on your family, ride your bike with your kids. When was the last time you had the energy to do that? I work 3 jobs. I'm a single mom, and I'm like, really? This is kind of fun. I forgot. And I actually went to look for roller skates, but I don't think they make those anymore. Did I just age myself? Oh, yes, I know. You're shaking your head at me, David. I see you.
Hi, Rusty.
Hi, honey. How are you?
Great to be with you.
I am so excited to have you on because you're like my spirit animal. You have the same kind of crazy energy that I have, because right now it's all about being happy and high on life. And, I get to visit people like you all over the world, and it's so exciting. Like, I get up at 3 o'clock in the morning. I start these at 11 o'clock in the morning, and they don't end until about 6. So,
wow.
Yeah. And it's beautiful because I had this illusion or fantasy, I don't know, we can dig into that later, doctor, that everybody was wearing like 3-day-old spaghetti stained t-shirts and hairs in buns and, sweatpants and not really shaven and Netflixing this whole time. But what I've discovered, David, there are some amazing freaking people floating on this rock with us. I mean, whoa. They're doing so many wonderful things for people. And it just ignites my soul to know that there is so much more good out there than all the nasty stuff that you hear in social media and that thing they call the TV, which I don't have. So I don't feel like I'm missing out on too much from the sounds of it.
You're not missing out on anything. And as a matter of fact, social media is that angel and devil on our shoulders, right? There's some beautiful stories of people at 94 years of age, 104 recovering from the virus, waving and smiling. There's other people that are helping their neighbors. There's a woman had a great story on social media of how when she got laid off, she didn't know what to do. So she started putting flyers in all the senior area neighborhoods and say, just leave a list on your front door. I will shop for you. You can pay me when I get back. I mean, seriously, and she even said she would never have done that without the pandemic. Where she was very self-centered. It was all, and she said this isn't my words. Yeah. She was very self-centered. It was all about her. And the pandemic has given her an opportunity. I was listening to the list of things you were just rolling off your tongue, Rusty, about, individuals who haven't done A, B, C, D, and E. The other day on social media, I posted a question and I said, have you ever used gardening as a way to get closer to God, your heart, and your soul.
Yes. Yes,
Right?
David, yes.
We had like 100 and something comments of people that were flipping out. And then this is where it got interesting, Rusty. I started getting emails from people saying, what you posted sounded so great. I don't even know how to start gardening. What do I do? I mean, it was so beautiful and humble. So I was telling these people, go to Home Depot or Lowe's, get little trays of tomato plants or marigolds, start them on your windowsill. If you have a yard, after they start to blossom, put them in the yard. If you don't, just put them into a bigger pot, right? But
I will tell you, gardening is just such a meditative, spiritual, grounding. And what I love about it is that I get to eat my garden, even though that kind of sounds like something from Little Shop of Horrors, but we're going to pass that part, that visual carnage. But I've never planted buckets before, and we're in a little duplex right now. I don't have my land anymore. We're in a shift and a change, and my sweet potatoes, it's like Jumanji out there right now. It's so freaking cool. They're so happy, and they love blues music. Who would have known?
Who would have known? All right, gang, listen, if you have sweet potatoes, listen to Rusty. Get the blues going, okay? B.B. King, Eric Clapton, Stevie Ray Vaughan. You got a ton of great artists.
Nina Simone. You cannot miss Nina Simone. Come on. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. So anyway, David, you have been thrown on my doorstep because you have some beautiful messaging. Not only do you like to talk about the kind of grumbles that we have on the inside of us, known as grief and fear and sadness and those things, but you're also a minister. So you're really grooving on that whole side of it's all good.
It's a beautiful balance. And I'll say, Rusty, if you don't play on both sides of the field, you'll never find out who you are.
Perspective. Did you guys hear that? Perspective. I say this all the time.
Yeah. If you're not willing to go into your and we say it has to be done in writing, get out of your head, put it on your computer, put it on paper. If you're not willing to write about, let me give you a personal example that just happened. I recently lost one of my closest friends in the world. She didn't die. She's not sick, but she decided to make a move with her life. And with the move that she made, we aren't able to communicate maybe more than infrequently. It just happened a week ago, and I'm still really hurt by it. And so people say, well, you're Mr. Positive and you're a minister and you're a best-selling author. Like, why are you sad? And I said, well, why shouldn't I be sad? There's nothing wrong with sadness, anger, rage, boredom, low self-confidence, low self-esteem. The only bad thing about everything I just mentioned is when we don't deal with them, then it's bad.
Well, and I think what I've discovered as I travel around the world, people, I have friends that are shamans and rabbis and priests of all variations, and I'm a minister as well. And one thing that I found really interesting, and I want to pick your brain. There's so much silence for people right now, and they're not accustomed to not being busybody, fast food, bum, 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 and just shoving stuff in their, cranium. Yeah. And you and I, we meditate, we take that time, we do our prayers and our spiritual business. So we are accustomed to this silence. And quite honestly, it was really beautiful. It's been a beautiful time period. I'm like, oh, I love this. Yeah. And yet there are a lot of people that are now starting to feel anger and remorse and grief and all of these emotions at once, and they don't know how to handle them. Yeah. Because as a social entity, we've strayed away from community nourishing stuff. We've filled it with materialistic nonsense and garbage. So here's this whole millions of people who are freaking out because they don't know how to deal and cope with that grief, which is exactly what it is. I mean, there's a part of us that died. That's reality. We're not going backwards, so there's no sense of normalcy, even though we try to mask that into conversation. And I'm wondering what your perspective is on how to help people move forward and realize that what they're experiencing is just a shedding of a layer.
There's, you know, we in February, we started releasing a bunch of different programs for people to really get into personal growth. You know, we have a no thought meditation course where we teach people how to, in my opinion, Rusty, it's the most powerful form of meditation ever created. And it's called no thought meditation because the key of it is not to contemplate on a phrase that has a meaning. The key is to go deeper into union with yourself, and you can do it via no thought. We have created programs to help people write books. Now, let me give you a great example of dealing with both the pain and the joy. So a woman hired me to write her first book. She is the mom of a 24-year-old extremely handicapped child. And she has lived through the absolute hell of all hells that anyone could imagine. And now she has all this downtime. And so I've known her for a couple of years, and we're in touch every once in a while. And then she saw on social media that I'm helping people write books. So she immediately signed up. And the very first thing we did was we do it's very organized. You know, we do chapter outlines and all this stuff, very detailed. And she wanted to make it a book of hope, which I am totally in favor of. But I said to her, if you don't have the opposite of hope in the book, people are going to look at this as a Pollyanna answer to something very serious. So now she's adding, you know, the average struggles as a single mom raising an extremely developmentally challenged child. And she's bringing governors and politicians into the book. She's bringing medical doctors into the book. So we're writing about the pain and the experience, but also she's writing about what she's learned from this incredible child. You know,
well, and that's the beauty of life. I mean, if you were to, going back to our gardening obsession that we share,
yeah.
you never know how many times to water a plant. Plants are finicky like cats, I swear.
Yeah.
And you know, your sweet potatoes might not actually like Nina Simone. Mine are grooving on it, but whatever. You plant these seeds in the dirt, and somehow miraculously they know to navigate innately, to navigate out of the darkness towards the light. And right. I think even if we think about that metaphorically, that's what she's been able to do. She has had to walk a path. She hasn't had to, she's chosen to walk a path. I have to watch my language, and raise her beautiful child in a way that is different than what the rest of us might have to deal with. And I think that's beautiful to watch the sprout come up above the ground.
Oh, you know, one of my favorite stories about this pain and joy is my friend Scarlett Lewis. You know, Scarlett's son, Jesse, at 6 years of age, was murdered in the Sandy Hook Elementary School massacre 9 years ago now. And you know, here's the thing that just is absolutely mind-blowing to me. 8 months after he was murdered, I contacted her and I said, I'd love to have you on the radio show. I want to interview you about this when you're ready. And there was a pause, and then Rusty, she says to me, how about Saturday? I said, Scarlett, it's been only 8 months. And she said, David, when you do the work that you do and you go into the pain, anger, rage, sadness, grief, and you don't let up on it, it shouldn't take most people more than 8 months to go through a major tragedy. Now, as I say that, some people are going to pull away and say, there's no way, you know. And I said to her at 8 months, I said, how much have you forgiven Adam Lanza, the killer? And at that point, it was 75%. Now it's 99.99%. And I said to her, how could you do it? Like, I'm crying on the radio, Rusty. I am in tears.
Oh, I feel you. I've had those days.
Oh, you know, her son was such a bundle of joy, you know, and I'm saying, how could you get there? And she said, well, I told you I did the work that you do. I said, no. How did you get here? How did you get into this mindset? And she said, I can answer that easily. Adam Lanza took my son, Jesse. If I don't forgive him, he will own me and my other son, JT, for the rest of our lives because of our anger.
Truth.
So I decided to completely forgive him so I can be free. And now here's the good part. here was this little, I used to call Scarlett my little house on the prairie mom, okay? She was just very simple. She had some horses. She had a country house. You know, it was like just little house on the prairie. She never wanted to be in the spotlight. She is one of the most sought after speakers in the world on forgiveness today, and she travels all over the world. And she has said to me, without that experience that I would never wish upon anyone, I could never be here. But how I got here was by going through the hell that most people, Rusty, will not go through.
You have to have a lot of courage. I always start my morning. I don't know if you're on my Facebook or not, but I always start my mornings publicly with exactly what my thought is for the day. And today was the day of sprinkling courage, bravery, and a lot of faith in your mixture today, because there are good days, there are bad days. And when you go through trauma, that trauma repeats itself a lot. So you have to figure out a way to stand above that pain. Not to say that it's ever going to go away. It might soften over the years,
Sure.
but I don't think it actually ever goes away. I think wounds like that are permanent. But it takes an incredible person to really dig deep inside themselves to realize that the story of their loss is bigger than them. And when you can stand up brave and courageous, you share that story with other people, which is why I love my job.
I know, it's very true.
And you inspire and motivate and liberate other people's minds. So good on her. How beautiful.
Oh yeah, and the other thing is, you know, like could have never done that on her own. We're not going to do this on our own. You know, like people think they're going to go through their own depression, anxiety, sadness, grief. Right? It isn't going to happen on your own, because we can't get out of our own way to see really what the pathway is. You have to work with professionals. That's the God's honest truth. Now, you can get out of your own way with a hangnail. Okay, I have total faith that everyone can get out of their own way with a hangnail, but not something like this. You know, a divorce, a bankruptcy, the death of a loved one, whatever it might, the loss of a job right now, the loss of your home right now. You're not going to move through this on your own. And if you do, it's going to take you 20 years and you're still not going to do it effectively. When I needed help, I was, you know, a raging alcoholic for almost 30 years. When I needed help, I was helping people get sober every one of those years almost. I was helping more people get sober than you could ever believe while I was a raging alcoholic at night. Now, I was highly functional, obviously. I was still a highly functioning high alcoholic. When I tried to heal myself, Rusty, it was a waste of time. You know, I mean, so what I ended up doing was I hired professionals for a year. And at the end of the year, and this is years ago, I have never had a craving. I've gone through hell in life. I will never go back. When people say once an alcoholic, always an alcoholic, it's a bunch of crap. You know, like once a heroin addict, always, it's a bunch of crap. We have the fortitude, if you are working with the right people, to move mountains that you will never move on your own. And that's an important message to get out to our audience today.
I think it's a great opportunity for individuals to hear that message too. And instead of doing just the podcast, I started the blog purposefully because I think people need to see that message as well.
Absolutely.
And we are these really unique walking dichotomy, bags of water, surfing on a rock without any control, but we think we do, right? Mm-hmm. And the more and more we have this conversation that you are smarter and braver and stronger, and you're going to be tested because that's the way it works, I think it's really hopeful and inspiring to other people, because there are a lot of people in pain right now. During this pandemic, the suicide rates have gone up. My biggest Achilles heel is domestic violence and child abuse. And that's all risen dramatically, murder-suicides, and so on and so forth, and all of the really sad parts about surfing on this rock.
Yeah.
But instead of taking that final step of hitting somebody, or, you know, if you have a drinking problem, taking another drink, as one guest said, do 16 squats before you do it. Bet you won't pick it up. And as
That's cute.
Yeah, as David would probably say, you know, call him, reach out to him, reach out to a sponsor, reach out to a friend, reach out to a family member, because you know what? Any judgment that anybody gives you, they ain't worth your dime on your phone. They
That's
ain't
right.
worth your dime on your phone. So you just move on and get rid of the toxicity, because that's half your problem, I can guarantee.
Yeah, it is true. You know, and it takes, there's a movie that I just recently watched. It's been out a couple years ago. It was done by the people that did Harry Potter series. And it's, the title of it is I Kill Giants. And if you're a mom or a dad, you got to watch it. It is one of the most powerful, most beautiful messages of what a teenager goes through when mom and or dad are sick or in trouble or hurt, what goes on in their minds. It is one of the most beautiful, it's a wacky movie, but it's the message, it just brings tears. And one thing she says at the end of the movie is she's looking at this big monster walking out of the sea, and she says, we are all so much stronger than we could ever believe. And, you know, I love that statement, but I'm going to caution that statement by saying this. We are so much stronger when we reach out for help than we could ever believe. Because as I mentioned earlier, Rusty, most of us cannot get out of our own way when we're in a deep place financially, grief-wise, addiction, dependency, whatever it might be. You know, we're not expected to get out of our own way. Communities are formed for this very reason. Professionals are here for this very reason, is that we aren't strong enough as a human being, most of us. Now, I can tell you, I probably know 5 or 6 people, like one is an orthopedic surgeon who operates on his own knees. Okay, this.
Oh God. Do you have his number? Because I think I put mine out today. Lord, he can operate on mine too. Experiment, please. Make it.
I know. It's, you know, like there are certain people that are just, you know, they're born with the gift, or they develop it, or I don't know. I can't say, is it genetic? Is it environment? Is it something they learned when they were 20, 30, or 40? But my doctor friend, Phil, he operates on his own knee. Okay. If there's anyone, if there's 2 people in the world that I would want on my side, if I was naked and afraid, you know, that TV show, they throw people out there with that. It would be Dr. Phil, not Dr. Phil, the radio guy, my buddy, the orthopedic surgeon, and my mentor, Joe Cerulli. They have fortitude that 99% of the world does not have. They have discipline that 99% of the world doesn't have. Now, could a person without much discipline get to that level? Hell yeah. Because at a certain point, it's called choice. You know, it's free will, man. If you want to lose weight, you can lose weight. You know, I work in every field imaginable, Rusty. Whenever someone comes to me and says, it's my genetics with weight, I always share with them the study out of University of Florida. 6% of people who seriously struggle with weight have a genetic link. 94% do not. Now, if you're raised in an environment where mom and dad emotionally ate, so when they were happy, bored, nervous, anxious, angry, they ate food, well, then that's called an environmental trigger, and you were raised in an environment where you were not taught coping skills. So we want to get out of this thing that, oh, well, you know, because of my genetics, I can't get sober, I can't lose weight, I can't. BS. There's millions of people in worse situations than you have ever experienced that have gotten sober, lost weight, etc. You know, my friend Evelyn Keeling lost 240 pounds. I highlight her story in one of my books called Focus. She lost 240 pounds in her 40s. In her 50s, walked on stage in front of 15,000 screaming fans in Las Vegas as a bodybuilder, for God's sake. You know, like there was 2 of her plus. And she lost 240 pounds. She transformed her mind, body, and spirit. Now, Evelyn Keeling, Rusty, doesn't have anything that you and I don't have. She doesn't have any genetic gift to lose weight. She had what was called a choice. Now, she took the choice to the highest level possible, but how about that black woman on social media, 82 years of age, who's a bodybuilder? I'm sure you've seen her. Everyone has seen her. Okay, now, does she have outrageous genetics that allows her to get to that kind of a body? Hell no. There's pictures of her years ago. She was not anywhere near in shape when she made a decision. Your show today and every show you have You're giving people options to make different choices. Now, the choice that you make to get sober, lose weight, find love, get divorced, whatever the hell you want to do, might take you a year. It might take you 4 years. I don't care how long it takes. You have the ability through choice to radically change anything about your life you want to, if you're willing to do what 90% of other people, Rusty, will not do.
Well, and I love it. And I'm so grateful that you're on, because it's, my favorite thing when I coach and when I teach and when I speak is I always refer to the 5 people. I can have 5 different people on the stage, very different colors, sizes, shapes, ethnicities, the whole thing, say the same sentence. And only a third of the audience will pick 1, maybe 2 people that they actually heard the sentence from. And it's when you're ready to hear the information is when you're ready to put forth the work. And I believe in perspective. I believe you don't know what you don't know until you know. And quite honestly, if you don't feel happy in your environment, you have the choice to learn what you don't know.
Amen. I just got off the phone with a client in Los Angeles in the world of dating. And I was talking to her about taking time off. She ended a relationship last week, and all of a sudden she met someone new. Very common. So, if you take a week off, I will tell your whole audience this, there's about a 99% chance you're going to repeat every past mistake you've ever repeated, because you're not slowing down. And so the exercise I gave her was this. I want you to write a list of all the things your former boyfriend did that was not cool within the first 90 days. Everyone shows their full colors in 90 days. Everyone. However, if you're caught up in lust, desire, illusion, fantasy, etc., you will not see any of them. So when we first started working, and I say this to all my clients, like, what was the flags that were blowing in the wind in month 1, 2, and 3? She said there was none. When I asked her today, after the relationship is over, she automatically came up with 10 things in the first 60 days that were not cool that she put up with. Now it gets better, Rusty, because then I said, now I want to know the things that you did in the first 90 days that weren't cool. And she came up with 20. All right, so listen, if we didn't do this exercise, she would have jumped into this next relationship thinking it was the last guy's fault. Now she has a truer look at the picture. She has just as much responsibility in the insanity that ended that relationship as he did. Now it's her choice. She said, what would you do if I were you? I said, I would take 6 months off from dating if I were you. I'd get very super clear. I wouldn't do a damn thing in the world of dating until I was really certain I was healed. I had forgiven the past person or persons, because if you don't forgive those past people, they're all right here in your new relationship. They're hanging out with you, and you're judging this new man, whether you know her or not, or new woman. It's ridiculous. But if you take time and you take responsibility for your role and you change your stuff that doesn't work and you forgive that past partner, Rusty, in 6 months, someone could be ready to be in a healthy relationship, or you're going to repeat the past. Your choice.
Well, and I think that is a exercise that you can use with any aspect of your life, whether it's work or personal relationships or
money
relationships or money. And I was in a very toxic marriage for 17 years. And so in the last 10 years of being divorced, it's been really, really wonderful and comforting and exciting to get to know who I am as an individual, because I wasn't an I was a we. And so I get to do all my things that I've missed doing, like kayaking and hiking and all that fun stuff. And now I'm really good with who I am. I don't know if it's really relevant or important to have a relationship like that, because life is just really good. If the right person comes by, that's great, but it's not something I'm searching for. And you have to get really good with yourself, because you're not a good partner if you're not a good partner to yourself, right?
Oh, you just said some really huge, important things. And, I feel bad for women in the world of dating much more than men, because mass consciousness, which is another word for society, says that if you're a single woman, there's something wrong with you. Now, that's in magazines, movies, novels. It's your mom, it's your dad, it's your aunt, it's your uncle, it's your girlfriends, it's your coworkers. Oh my God, you're the perfect catch. How can you be single? Blah, blah, blah. You know, and so that puts a ton of pressure on women to always be in freaking love. Now, men have their own issues, and the issue that society puts on men is money. If you don't have a lot of money, you're a failure as a man. If you don't have a man in your life, you're a failure as a woman. Now, both of those statements are absolute pure crap. You can be a phenomenal man making $15,000 a year, $20,000, $30,000. You can be a phenomenal woman being single for 25 years. But when we buy into the crap called mass consciousness, we feel insecure. What you just said is something that I want especially every woman and every man to hear. When you take time off to get to know yourself, you will quit putting up with the bullshit that you put up with in the past because you're worthy of something so much more. But if you don't get a chance to know yourself, Rusty, like you have, you will go back into a similar insane relationship because you don't feel worthy of anything other than what you've experienced in the past.
Well, and it's beautiful because what has transpired is I realized how much garbage I had in my life, how much toxic relation, not just romantic toxic, but friendship and family and doings. Like I wasn't doing things that were making my mind, body, and soul happy or healthy. I wasn't in a job position that I could be proud of. I was a zombie making the money to pay the bills, rinse and repeat, just moving through life as this numb bag of water, unhappy. And I got very sick and I almost died. And that really brought into perspective, my favorite word, the reality that I have a choice. And is this, you know, I'm a young 44. I've got a lot of years ahead of me and I don't want them miserable. I just don't. You know, I spent 20, I mean, even post-divorce, he was very toxic and nasty. So it was a good 25 years with this constant barragement of gross. And that's not the light. That's not me. That's not my light.
No, and you know, as you're listening to Rusty talk, what I would like our listeners to do is just to jot down the one area of life that's filled with the most chaos. You know, is it your love relationship, or is it money? Is it your health? Is it the job? You know, what is it? One of the things that we have been inundated with from this pandemic, Rusty, are people that desperately want to change. And the biggest change that people are coming up with, to me, is to become minimalists. This is opening up a doorway for all these people that have accrued stuff, like they have too much furniture in their house for the size of their house. They have a car they can't afford. They've accrued all this crap. And now the pandemic, they're on unemployment, or they're not working, or they're working part-time and they're struggling with finances. And I say to everyone, I go, imagine this. Imagine how you'd feel right now if your expenses were 50% of what they are. Let's just start there. And every time, Rusty, people go, oh my God, I would have so little stress.
Well, and it demonstrates exactly the whole thing that we've been talking about in an even more impressive nutshell. So we have filled and masked ourselves with materialistic things that have absolutely no meaning to the end of your life. The world stopped. Banks don't care about your ability to pay. They're going to take it from you.
Yep.
Is that important? I know that the relationships that I'm building now during this pandemic are so authentic and so delicious and so yummy and so amazing because people are real. They're not masked anymore, and they don't have a bullshit agenda. And those priorities need to be kind of gently entered into your future self, because this is the new world.
It is, and only go after one goal at a time. You know, there are some people, Rusty, right now that would write down, oh my God, my issues are money, love, children, health. I mean, they'll go through the whole list. But really what we say, and we created a program in 1996 called the One Thing Theory. And the One Thing Theory, and I still teach it exclusively today, and the odds are I'll probably never change it. But the one thing theory states that at any given time in life, there's only one goal to go after. It's the one you've denied, delayed, procrastinated on. It's the one you don't want to do. Because when you attack that one full force, every other area of your life improves. So you don't have to go after everything. Choose the one you don't want to and watch your life change.
It really does. It's been an amazing process. It's like when you watch the superhero movies and they're flying into off the ground and the ground's crumbling and all the buildings are crumbling around you and you're like superhero. That's the way it feels. All that nasty stuff just it just, because you're not there anymore. You're not aware of, part of, wanting. It's just like whew.
Oh, the load is off your back. You know, when I got sober years ago, I lost 90% of my friends, which I found out were acquaintances, and they were acquaintances based on alcohol. So, at first I'm going, what am I going to do? All my buddies are at the bar. All my buddies are tailgating. All my buddies are, what the hell am I going to do? And, I had some great teachers, some great counselors that were so patient with me, much more patient than I would have been with myself. And they encouraged me to find one hobby. I chose gardening. They encouraged me to find one good friend. I did. It was this one thing at a time. It's like, don't overwhelm yourself, David. And I want our listeners and our audience right now to understand that. There's no need to overwhelm yourself with 1,000 changes at once. If you follow the definition I just gave, you should be able to see the list, circle the one that you don't want to go after, and then give yourself that as a gift. Give yourself a year to go after that goal, to radically change your finances, your health, your love life, your friendships, whatever. And the other thing we do with all of our clients just about Rusty is we ask them to write down a list of the people that they interact with every 2 weeks on a regular basis. Text, call, meeting, whatever it might be. And then we ask them, of the number of people, we say 50% of the people you interact with on a regular basis should have something that you do not have. They should have a better relationship. They should have better finances. They should have a better body. They should have a better connection with God. They should have a better career path. In other words, you want to have at least 50% of people in your circle that you look up to, that you want to emulate, that you are really admire. It's not that you're insecure and jealous of their success. You want them to be successful, and you want to be in the energy of people who have mastered one thing. And just by doing that simple exercise. Now, a woman I worked with the other day, she made her list and no one was above her, which is very common. They were all equal. And she needs a major life change. So her homework for next week is to come up with 5 people that she doesn't know, but she's acquaintances with on social media or somewhere, that she thinks are really amazing. We're going to talk about the 5 next week, and then you probably can guess what we're going to do next. We're going after one at a time, and we're going to build a relationship. We're going to build a friendship, and then we're going to, after that is solidified, we're going to go after one more person. And it's a slow process, but already she has her 5 people, and I know them. I just happen to know them all because they're very visible. And I said to her, I know them all, and you can't go wrong with any of them. Now, if all 5 reject her offer, all we do is create a new list of 5. That's it. We don't get hung up. But the idea is, let's keep moving forward.
On that note, David, I hate to be the bearer of bad news. It's like Cupid who misses the shot. All right. Where do we find more information about you?
The easiest thing in the world, talkdavid.com, TALK David.com. We have a free motivational minute a couple times a week you can sign up for. There's all kinds of stuff. We have a program on how to learn no thought meditation, which is great for the stress we're going through. If you've ever wanted to write a book, we have a very inexpensive webinar coming up, how to write a book in 30 days. I've been writing books for 25 years now. And my last book, I actually wrote in 2 days. So we are expanding it and showing people how they can write a book in 30 days. So just come on over to talkdavid.com and hang out with me.
David, you are a treat. Big hugs and kisses to you. Thank you for all your hard work. We're running out of time quickly. Can you believe there's actually time still? That's so bizarre to me.
Now we got to get rid of that.
I know. You're watching Living and Thriving with Rustie. I'm Rustie, and this is the end of my worldwide marathon because I go on traveling adventure for the next 2 weeks to film my TV series on my latest book, The Truth About Poverty. Very humbling, very scary. I still get goosebumps saying that that's something that I created because I was told never to write. But anyway. The beautiful thing about life is there are so many choices and it's all about perspective. And if you don't have perspective, reach out. One of us has perspective. Travel, explore, read, write. My favorite thing in the world for newbies who don't understand perspective, go to YouTube and watch Humans. That gives you a lot of perspective. Know that you're beautiful. Know that I love you. Do something kind for yourself, like singing in the kitchen or running around naked in the neighborhood. Nobody's watching anyway. It's quarantine. And have 2 cookies instead of 4 because I see you. I see you. Till next time. Where is it? There it is.